Welcome to Kaiju Curry House, episode 98. My name is Connor, and I'm joined by my regular co-host, Joe. And today's special guest is a fantastic artist who's worked on various comic book covers, as well as various other kaiju-related media, Mr. Christian Gonzalez. How are you doing?
How's it going, guys? Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Christian.
Of course.
Okay. So usually at the start of every podcast, we have to ask a certain question. So basically it is a pun of some sorts, right?
Total dad pun.
It is, yeah, it's just a dad joke. Yep. So basically what we usually do is we ask a person on the podcast, what have kaiju been up to? Okay. Right. So it's just the
eyebrow raise at that pun. Wow. That was great.
It's a tongue twister as well. So I'll start first and Joe can follow by example. So I'll ask Joe first so you can get the gist. Joe, what have kaiju been up to?
Oh, Connor, I'm glad you asked. I have been up to loads, honestly. So recently, Connor and I both are 3D printing fellows, and I recently joined a 3D printing subscription for dinosaur STL files. These are the type of files that you can 3D print. STL stands for stereolithography, which is basically like little slices that eventually add up to a 3D image. So I joined a tribe on my mini factory, which is all dinosaurs, which is great. And as we were recording on July 1st, I got this month's dinosaur like bonanza out. Like I've got my 6 new files and they're awesome. And one of the ones I'm most excited about is a diorama that I can print and paint up, which is a Deinosuchus attacking a bunch of hadrosaurs, which is really cool. I'm terrible at painting water though, so I have a mild amount of trepidation going into that one, but I thought that was cool. I have been speaking behind the scenes to some of the guys at Kaiju Ramen, and I am eagerly anticipating their next magazine drop, which should be within the next couple of weeks, which is awesome. So hopefully by the time you're listening to this recording, you will have it in your hands or on your computer, so to speak. So that's really fun. And then finally, I'm kind of on a dinosaur kick right now, but we consider dinosaurs the original kaiju on this podcast. I have booked tickets for the Jurassic World exhibition at the Excel in London. Yes, for all you kaiju fans in the UK, it opens on August 25th. Now, that weekend is already sold out, ladies and gents. So you're going to have to look at it a little bit later. But if you want to look it up, it is absolutely amazing. Everywhere it's gone, they have had to put on extended dates for it. The animatronics, the puppetry, and the immersive environment, 5 stars across the board. So naturally, I'm using my children as an excuse to go and see it. But that's more or less what I've been up to. I've also been, I feel like it's worth giving a shout out. We've had the X Plus drop of new merch that's been shown, which looks cool. I was going to say there's a lot of Jaguar and Megalon stuff flying around these days, and X Plus did not disappoint to that end. I'll let someone else probably talk about that though. Anyways, Christian, what have kaiju been up to?
Well, lately I've been on first and foremost, I've just been trying to draw every single day, trying to make it a habit,
Like, oh yeah, it's like if you're a writer, you got to do it every day. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like, if I don't do it, I feel like I feel guilty for not doing it. So I kind of like every morning I draw for like a few hours. I've been this year actually I've been like on a huge Nintendo kick. So my stuff's been like more cartoony than my previous years, but I have done some kaiju stuff here and there. Like on my I started a Patreon where I'm doing like a monthly sticker sheet, and this month was last month was Godzilla versus Gigan. So
nice.
Take my like this year's cartoonier vibe and apply it to my older kaiju style and like kind of fuse it. So that's fun. I've also been playing games a lot, trying to get through a backlog that I have. Just
any games in particular?
I've been going through Pikmin actually.
Pikmin?
I started emulating GameCube games.
Oh,
So I'm
nice.
gonna play through Pikmin 1 and 2.
Kaiju Ramen does not condone piracy of video games, but I'm joking.
Did I say emulating? I meant I bought them on the eShop because you can do that.
Yeah.
Emulation is not necessarily pirating. Emulation
not.
is cracking a console so that you do not have to buy another one.
It's game preservation.
Exactly. I was going to say.
The companies don't want to do it, so somebody's got to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's your favorite Nintendo game, by the way?
I gotta say Pikmin, probably Pikmin 2 specifically. It's like so because it's got. I mean, they're small, but they're also like kaiju, the creatures. When you think about it, because your guy's like this big, and you're facing like creatures like that big. So to him, they're kaiju. So it's like I love monsters and stuff. So like the creature designs in that game are just so rich. It's like I've been obsessed.
I go with Pokemon Snap any day of the week.
Oh,
Original Pokemon Snap, though.
Yeah.
That was
Did
so
you
good. Pardon?
Do you play the new one or no?
Oh, on the Switch, I keep seeing pictures and stuff of all the levels, and I'm dying on the inside.
Yeah. I haven't played it, but I've seen it's pretty cool.
Yeah, our little man has a Nintendo Switch, and he hasn't got Pokemon Snap yet because he's just like, why would you want to take pictures of Pokemon? That sounds weird. I was like, why? There's no adventure to that. And it's like, you don't understand.
Yeah, you don't get it.
Yeah, they're all keen on Mario Kart, though. Mario Kart,
Mario Kart's a drug in itself. It's just too addictive.
And now they're feeding it even more. They're doing the expansion pass for like 48 courses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they do. That's awesome that you've been drawing. I really enjoy your shirt too. For those of you who are listening along, Christian has a schematic of Godzilla's head.
It's actually done by Hazen Becker. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He's done some cavity colors.
Oh, cool.
Color shirts, and it's like the
now that I can see it better, you have a black outline of Godzilla, and then underneath of that you have like an orangey red of the 1975 Mecha Godzilla outline, where like the rubber Godzilla skin would be overfit. That's really cool.
I think it's awesome. Based on a behind the scenes photo of like the mechanical part of it.
Oh, so right. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, his name's cool. Hazen Becker, I think his name. He's a great artist. I love his work.
Mm-hmm. Really I'll have to look him up. Yeah. Anyways,
Christian, it's your turn to pick on Connor now. You have to say dad pun.
What have you kaiju? Well, okay, let me start over. What have kaiju been up to?
Oh, beautiful execution.
Thanks. Yeah.
First time. I have been learning some new 3D software because those who know me, I am a 3D artist, of course. There's 3D prints. Now, typically, I've been using ZBrush to create monster sculpts, but very recently, I think it was either the beginning of this year, I believe, I might be wrong in this, the company ZBrush got bought out by a company called Maxon. Now, generally speaking, it was basically you get a free update to ZBrush every so often, so you're always up to date, right? Soon as Maxon bought ZBrush, they stopped the free updates. So if you want to get the newest version of ZBrush, you gotta pay. So I decided to learn some Blender for a bit, and I'd actually previously used Blender in the past to do game-related stuff, which didn't go anywhere. And it's basically like baby steps, pretty much, or learning how to walk again, pretty much, like because you haven't used this software in so many years. But yeah, hopefully there'll be more monster sculpts coming out of that software in the near future, at least. I actually used the creature from Black Lagoon as like a test subject, which I'm still working on, but because of work, it's just, find the time to actually get to do this sort of thing. But anyway, aside from the 3D sculpting stuff, I've mentioned this in private to like Joe and the rest of the UK Kaiju folk, is that I'm writing a book. Yep, I'm writing a novel, believe it or not. I've been working on it for at least 3 months, and it's It is Kaiju related, and that's all I'll say just now. I better not spill out too many details, but
what a hook! What a hook!
Yeah, what a hook! Yeah, keep an eye on Connor C.S. Baxter's next novel.
No, don't laugh! Don't laugh.
Oh, but yeah, but yeah, the whole story's been marked out, and there's going to be 15 chapters roughly. So, and we're down to 6 chapters already. So we're getting there. We're almost halfway there. Really? So, yeah. Anyways, Christian, would you like to tell the viewers about yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you got started being an artist?
All right, so obviously my name is Christian Gonzalez. My online handle is C-Guns, which I came up with. It's Christian Guns, C Guns, and then it's made up a dumb name. But I started really getting into drawing in high school, so like 2012 probably. Like I started like as a teenager. I was like obsessed with Matt Frank's art, so I would always like try to mimic his style and learn like that. Mm-hmm. And I just progressed throughout the year. I got like some crappy Android tablet like way back when. I used that. Got another one. It was like a little bit bigger until like I'd say 2019. I got an iPad, and that's what I've been using ever since. I've been using Procreate to draw. Mm-hmm. I've done a whopping 2 covers for IDW's Godzilla series.
It's better than nothing,
That's 2 more than me.
I would do more, but they kind of they're kind of bad at correspondence. But so yeah, right now I'm just doing little odds and ends here and there, commission work every now and then. I did do some designs that are licensed for official Godzilla stuff, but I don't know if I can talk about it. I didn't sign anything, but just to be safe. And yes, that's my most recent official thing that I've done is those.
Yeah. The first time I saw your artwork was, believe it or not, the Godzilla Unmade audio dramas.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
How did you manage to get from doing more fan-made stuff to being involved with more official stuff, like with IDW and such for designing covers? Or you recently did work on Redman, I believe.
Redman. Okay, so for the most part, it's just harassing the right people, just constantly messaging everybody I can until it's like fishing. You're just like constantly putting it out there until you get something. IDW was a lot of like going around to different people, being like, hey, who can I talk to? Who can I talk to? Whatever. It's like, oh, I'm the writer. I don't know. Eventually that was just finding the right person and getting lucky, I guess. And then stuff like Redman, I've kept a pretty good relationship with Matt throughout the years. Like I went from harassing him as a little teenage kid, to actually now we're respect each other, and like he gives me some work every now and then, and I ask him for advice. So Redman's all from Matt. He's a great guy. Always giving me, leads here and there. So yeah, I'll always jump. I'll always stop what I'm doing to help Matt out with the project.
That's great. Yeah, Matt Frank is, of course, a brilliant artist. I haven't spoken to him personally yet, but he does seem like a chill dude from what I can tell. Yeah. So you poked and prodded to get IDW's attention to do
respectfully poked and prodded, I'm sure.
Yeah, respect.
Yeah.
How do you find the right people? So is that a thing where is there do you just scope out who's gonna be writing on a project, and then
if I see IDW's new series coming out, and then as someone does the cover, I'm like, okay, so who did the cover? Let me see if they have social media, or if there's and then I'll see they talk to different people who are like, oh, I found the writer for the new comic, so let me message him, and they'll be like, oh no, you gotta message this guy. So it's just talking to as many people as you can, trying to figure out who's the right person to talk to.
So a little bit of practice and just detective work and finding the right people, and
literally
off you get.
Yeah, just being obsessed.
How long was it before you said you started in high school? How many years would you say it was before you got your first official gig?
Oh man, so My first ever official thing was doing some additional ink for Redman for Matt, and that was so I started in high school, I guess 2012, and like by start I mean like my drawings were like bottom tier, like starting like, and then two, I like learning and learning, and then eventually I think I want to say 2018 was when Redman came out. I'm not really sure. 2018 or 20, no, yeah, 2018 I think. So yeah, I guess 2018, and then my first big thing was in 2020, I believe, with the IDW cover.
2020, what a year.
Oh yeah, I know. What a great year. Right. I mean, artistically, I got a lot of time to work, but that's the only good thing about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think everyone got a lot of free time during that period.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
a great time for comic books. I'm telling you what. Speaking of, where can we find that comic? Is it available as a trade paperback yet on Amazon?
Yeah, I think they're trade paperbacks, so I'm sure you can find them on eBay or probably Amazon. I mean, I'm not sure. They sent me the one, but they haven't sent me the second one that I did, so I don't even know if they're gonna do that because, again, IDW kind of sucks at correspondence. Actually, the thing that happened was the editor that I was working with, she got moved to like another department, so like I was just left in the wind. So I had nobody to hit up for covers or anything anymore. Gotta figure out what to do.
That's a bummer.
Yeah,
But
it is what it is.
that's the joys of working in business. You know, it's just like you just have to deal with lack of communication sometimes. You know,
That's true.
Yeah. Of course, when you get to do official Godzilla art, is there any restrictions that like a list of rules that you have to abide by whenever you're like say drawing Godzilla? Because we were talking about there was a recent art competition for the I think it was like one of the Call of Duty games where it was just a long list of rules that were more like legalities, really, in terms of like drawing Godzilla. Did this ever happen? Like when you were designing covers, was there any like message saying can you change that, please? Or
So I'll start off by saying that you guys have no idea how badly the '98 Godzilla has like given Toho like trauma. Like
really,
it traumatized them. Like it's honestly like ridiculous. I never got like a list, obviously. That would have been helpful, so I could have avoided having to send it back and forth and back and forth. And then, but yeah, it's like my first cover, not so much with the Godzilla and Biollante, and then the second one that I had Gigan on it, it was like a whole ordeal because like I had first Gigan had no head, and they were like, oh yeah, that's fine. And then I inked it, and then they're like, oh no, he can't have no head. He has to like have his head attached. I'm like, okay, well there goes like the whole like crux of that cover. And then Godzilla had 3 toes. He needed to have 4, I believe. That's what they said. He couldn't have. I gave him like a little beard, like spikes on his chin, like a beard almost. And they're like, you can't have that, even though Godzilla Earth has that, but God forbid.
Yeah.
And I had Easter eggs all over the rubble. I had like Shukra and Mamagon from Godzilla vs. Gigan. I had Maser tanks. I had like all these little Easter eggs, and they like take them all out. Nothing. You can't have any of that. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the whole thing does sound a bit bizarre. Like because you think something like that would sell more, but it's probably I don't know. Like
they're just very protective of their baby.
It probably comes down to 2 things. It's one, they want Godzilla to have like a unified corporate image so that people know it is Godzilla and he remains easily recognizable. Yeah. And then the second thing is what licenses the comic, in this case, IDW probably has to work with. So while you probably throw in a whole bunch of references, i.e. Mamagon and the Maser tanks, things like that, those are probably Toho licenses that IDW hasn't paid for at that point. And when you see, like when the fans see, oh, that's awesome, probably like the people that are holding the purse strings at IDW are like, oh, I just blew our budget.
I feel bad for the editor because she's the one that had to go back and forth with Toho the whole time.
Yeah, it's like, probably one of those things. Yeah, I'm sure that there's continuities that they want to protect. There's the licensing, and then again, it once you have like a trademarked corporate image of a character, you have to stick closely to that, because otherwise it just becomes so easy to have bootlegged and copied. You can't do anything about it.
Sure.
So,
And again, I think a large portion is 1998 trauma, though, from the PTSD from the 98.
So I know that the 98 Godzilla had a chin, but, Mr. Totopoulos was, I think he cited that there was a Shere Khan an image that he really liked. And one of the things about that tiger that, like really drew him in was that it had a pronounced chin, and he wanted to give Godzilla that to give him a bit more facial character. You mentioned that, you put spikes on the chin and gave him a bit of a scaly goatee, as it were. Were there any specific 98 Godzilla references? They were like, oh, no, you can't do that.
They didn't really reference the movie specifically, but I mean, I'm kind of like hyperbolizing.
It's just how protective they were of their.
Yeah, they're just very protective. I imagine it's like how like Nintendo's with Mario, or like Pikachu is, like they can't be like altered. They have to be like pure, I guess.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because Godzilla's had like 80 different looks, so you'd figure, like who cares?
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite Godzilla look?
Oh man, that's tough.
Did they let you pick when you were doing the cover, or did you have to stick to a particular Godzilla?
Well, no, mine was kind of like a fusion. Like I didn't really like have to stick to a design. It just had to be like overall, like, oh, this is Godzilla. Like my first one, I liked more than my second one because I stuck more towards like a fusion of Showa and Heisei.
All right.
If I had to have like a top three, though, I guess like designs, I'd say probably. I mean, I really like MonsterVerse Godzilla. I know it's like, like. Oh, you're not.
I think MonsterVerse Godzilla is fine. I respect MonsterVerse because like Gareth Edwards poured a lot of his heart and soul into approving just the right Godzilla that's also somewhat physiologically believable.
Yeah.
I feel like, giving Godzilla visible gills answers so many questions. I feel like the spikes are great. I feel like that design got a little flack from the Godzilla community because of his legs.
Yeah, I mean,
his legs and his toes. But at the end of the day, for a creature that size, you have to have these like pillar-like elephantine sort of feet.
Thunder
thighs. I mean, like those are massive muscles that are supporting this creature. I feel it was wholly justified, but
I think it makes him look more intimidating, more weight, I guess, like shows that he's like a large towering monster, really, I'd say the 2014 Godzilla is a great design. I'm one who didn't actually like the revisions they did to Godzilla in the other MonsterVerse films because I just feel like it's nice to have the classic dorsal fins, but they do feel a bit tacked on, I think. I just don't think they fit with that Godzilla in particular. But,
did you read the comic book where they explain why his dorsal plates changed?
I've seen a few comic panels. Yeah, don't they get blasted off?
The canonicity of those comics is pretty dubious, though.
That's fair enough. I do like it, though. They explained it in such a way. So, like, there's like a big Papa Muto, by the way. Pardon?
Muto Prime.
Yeah. And it is a pretty angry customer. And it tends to like go after Godzilla's. It has these ovipositors that it sticks into Godzilla's species. And it's a very xenomorph-esque sort of business. Anyway, Godzilla has a fight with this here said Muto Prime. And in the crux of it, whether he's trying to power up Atomic Blast, Pulse, whatever he's getting, ready to do, it goes badly for him and it kind of backfires on his plates, which are where he stores a lot of his nuclear energy. So it's similar to like how if you pull, or you shouldn't pull off a gecko's tail, but geckos can shed their tails when they're in distress. The thing is, though, is the tail that grows back is never the same as the original. So Godzilla's plates did grow back, but in this case, they were not the same as the originals, and they retained some of those shard formations from when he had this traumatic battle with the Muto Prime. And I thought that was a pretty nice way of explaining it whilst making him look more Showa. So I think that it was like a nice way of bringing it in. Incidentally, we got our announcement for the next MonsterVerse film,
Yeah,
which is going to be, it's going to be dropping next March, or not next March. 2024. I'm a year ahead.
You wish,
But
man.
but in any case, I thought that was great. So we're getting series, we're getting another MonsterVerse film. It's a great time to be a kaiju fan in that
On
regard.
Skull Island anime too.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
So Connor, I picked on Christian. I want to hear what's your favorite Godzilla. I don't think we've asked you this.
Oh, it's the one from Destroy All Monsters up till I believe it's Gigan. I think it's the last film.
It was a pretty uniform look for the,
Yeah.
for the shower period. That's for sure.
When I think of Showa designs, that's the Godzilla in my head that pops up for the most part.
Yeah, that's the one. Dude.
Yeah. Even though I especially like it in Hedorah where he gets injured, right? And I kind of wish they kept that consistency with versus Gigan. Like he's got a melted hand, his eye is blind one eye, but we can't have nice things, unfortunately. But
that's peak Showa Godzilla. Although one that I do really like also is the not a lot of people like it. It's the one from versus Ebirah.
Oh yeah.
Muppetzilla.
Yeah, the Cookie Monster.
Actually, I have from this gentleman in Japan who he creates these using like the old techniques.
Oh yeah.
And I have like a replica.
Oh wow.
Oh, folks, we are all right. So for those of you who are listening along, you can go find this on YouTube. But Christian is showing us a custom Godzilla bust.
He uses like the whole like latex and like compiling material.
Oh.
You can even like has like a little puppet hand. You can.
Oh, that's cool. Great.
Also got a tube that connects to like compressed air, and you flip it upside down, and it shoots smoke out of his mouth.
That's amazing. Oh,
yeah, it's pretty crazy. This guy's amazing. He's a gentleman in Japan. I'm not sure if he ever actually worked on any of the films, but I mean, he could have. Looks like it. Pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, sorry to the segue there. I just had to.
No. That's bragging about your own personal Godzilla stash is always allowed on this podcast. Thank you very much. Since we've asked everybody else, I will remind our audience that Godzilla 1984 is my favorite Godzilla costume. Love that. Menacing Godzilla's all the way. Don't make fun of his eyes. Come on. Don't make fun of his eyes.
Yeah, Godzilla.
The Muppet eyes. Such an intimidating design. And then you get to the eyes.
I like 84 as well, just especially when it's the robot head and the lip just goes up like that.
Cybot Godzilla. Cybot Godzilla is great. Snarling Godzilla. I think it was really effective in one scene, and that only scene was when you just see like the side lip curling back, and then he torches that bridge. That was good, but the whole rest of it, where like his entire face kind of lifts up, but I thought it was a great film.
I do have to go on record though and say MonsterVerse isn't necessarily my favorite. I think my favorite goes to Shin Godzilla's third form with the little arms.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they all have little arms? I feel like
I was a way to mention that. Yeah.
So which one is it?
The second one.
The second one. All right. So
if you will.
So the red one. The red one.
The one that screams and has the little arms. I have it tattooed on my arm.
Oh, that's great. That is beautiful.
Designed by Matt Frank, actually.
So everybody who's listening to this, please go onto YouTube and see a really wicked tattoo design.
Sorry to be so anti-audio listeners here. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was going to say, you guys can subscribe to us and like us on YouTube, for those of you listening. Thank you very much. No, that's awesome. So, Christian, what other projects have you been working on other than Godzilla? Have you done any other kaiju stuff besides? I mean, you mentioned Red Man.
Yeah, just Red Man. Red Man. Some Transformer stuff actually from Matt as well.
What kind of Transformer stuff are you allowed to say?
It was, it came out already. I worked on this, I think, during the pandemic as well. It was like not a trading card. It was like a deck building game.
Oh,
and
cool.
he was doing all these robots and the car versions, and he needed help because he had like on a time crunch. So I did all the vehicle forms of the Autobots.
Oh, cool.
So that's pretty cool. That's what I did. And
I remember.
That's pretty much it. As far as
I remember I remember trying to draw stuff, and for the life of me, there were two things I could never draw: people and cars. Those
Oh
were
no, I can't draw
horrendous.
cars either. And I was so daunted when he told me he needed help with the vehicles. I was like, I don't know. All right.
What are you asking me to do? What, you know what I do, right? Monsters? That's a
Yeah,
car?
I draw
No.
organic stuff, not a
Yeah.
robot.
We
That's
could all
the
be
good
like Mike Mignola, who never draws cars in his comics at all because he can't draw them. So
I'm gonna have to go back and look and see that. I've never noticed that before.
have you ever seen a car in Hellboy?
That's a good point.
No. What a cheater. Wow.
That's artists who they
He always
draw.
draws them in the cab.
Yeah. That's like the
I don't
artists
know
who
whether that's sneaky or a masterwork. That's amazing.
I've seen some who don't draw feet or anything either. It's kind of funny.
Is that
Like they-
Rob Liefeld?
Oh yeah, that's the thing though. So like in art classes, right? So we're talking about how you started your artistic career in earnest in high school. So I remember like my high school art teacher, like all these lessons on how to draw hands and faces. They never talk about feet.
Yeah, that's true.
They just
For the
don't.
record, I couldn't draw hands for the longest time. Like,
Oh,
hands were, like-
nobody can draw hands. It's impossible. Why even bother teaching people?
That's why all my Godzillas are like
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. That's how they all are. Only so much you can do with a hand, like.
Well, that's the thing as well with monsters. It's like you don't need to worry about anatomy a lot of the time. You can just make stuff up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is the thing. So that actually brings up an interesting point. So we talked shortly before the podcast, we were rambling on about introduction of like mammalian features and how like all monsters are chimeras. So like, what are your favorite like traits that you had to draw or incorporate into your Godzilla artwork? Like when you draw Godzilla, okay, so ears. So Godzilla's ears. So listeners, like this is a pretty Godzilla heavy episode for us. So 1954, Godzilla comes out with like a few noticeable things. He has spiky plates on his back. He's essentially like a 1950s T-Rex. He has 4 toes, 4 fingers, if you're including a thumb. He has fangs, and he has these great little ears on either side of his head. So ears, we were explaining earlier, or at least I was talking about it earlier. Ears are or at least visible pinna, that's what they're called, like that cartilagey part of your ear that sticks out. That's a mammalian trait. That isn't reptilian. That isn't found in fish or birds or amphibians. It is mammalian. So when Godzilla was originally created, there were a whole bunch of different things that were just kind of like brought in to make him look the way he does. So what are some other fun things that, you, Christian, have had to draw? Like, what are some really great charactery bits of your Godzillas that you've like made sure to throw in? Like, people will know it's yours, things that you're proud of,
Let me see. I have to look at my drawing again because I haven't seen it in like 2 years right now. But obviously the ears, like I said, I feel like ears on Godzilla is a must. It's like distinguishes him from any other dinosaur. It just adds a lot to the design. Just little ears, that's all you need. Let me see. I mean, obviously the posture and the stance is because he's a dude in a suit. So I try to keep that going. Obviously, that's essential to the design.
The tripod stance, tail dragger.
I also like the neck wrinkles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That is a fun thing to include. Kind of have to have that. Kind of keep the show of charm to it,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Kind of make it look like a mix of like baggy because it's skin and also baggy because it's like the wrinkles in the costume. Try to incorporate those there.
So when you draw Godzilla, you actually like to like have a bit of fun with it and make him look like he's a guy in a suit still, even though in like the comics, obviously, he's a completely fictional character.
Yeah.
That's fun. Like so far as like his facial structure too, like with the eyebrows and everything, do you go for an angry Godzilla? Do you go for an animal Godzilla?
I go for the show eyebrows, the really big, like obvious, like
Godzilla versus
like
Mothra,
total,
sort of.
Yeah, like total like eyebrows almost.
Mm-hmm.
The frog. That's one thing I like about the show.
Speaking of frog, I've actually got this one on my desk right now.
Yeah, that one is a frog.
Yeah, definitely.
For those of you who are listening along, Connor just picked up a NECA 1962 Godzilla and waved it for the camera.
Yeah.
The 62 Godzilla does not have ears, does not have 4 toes, does not have fangs.
It does look like a frog.
They lopped off quite a bit for 62.
My headcanon is that when he got trapped in ice, his ears thawed off, they fell off, and his third toe fell off also. His fourth toe.
Oh, so this is frostbite. That's what happened.
Yeah, yeah. Because he got trapped in ice in 55 and he still had ears and four toes. And then in all the other movies in the show, he doesn't have ears.
You know what? I've never heard that theory before, but and you know what? He has black skin generally anyways. So I mean, like, you'd never know.
This is canon now. You know, Toho might
It's
dispute
frostbite.
it.
You heard it here first, folks. Christian Gonzalez has come up with like the perfect plot canon for this. You have solved a 60-year-odd mystery. Wow, that's good.
You're welcome.
That is really
This
good.
is why your viewers need to like subscribe to your stuff, because they get all this kind of exclusive
This is amazing content. This is what we're known for, rambling and going off topic, to be perfectly honest. So
I think nobody else knows or cares about.
We're about as professional as can be.
so you mentioned that you also like Shin Godzilla.
I love
So
Shin.
yeah, I think a lot of people like Shin Godzilla just because of it broke a lot of rules for Toho with Godzilla.
Yeah.
So when you mention ears, Shin Godzilla, if he has ears, we don't know where they are. It's kind of if you've seen the Fantastic Four movie, you know, when Johnny Storm asks Ben Grimm, it's like, where are your ears?
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things, but it's a really fantastic creature. You mentioned earlier, like you identify, you know, the Shin Godzilla design trope and the small arms. He does have.
I love that.
He needs to go to the gym, to be fair, but I mean, like, they are.
But he's got huge legs, so it compensates.
Yeah, so like the arms are really great. They're almost like, so obviously he's not a healthy looking critter, Shin Godzilla. If anybody who's listening has not seen Shin Godzilla, you need to stop this right now and you need to go see that movie. It's so good on so many different levels. But not only are his arms, they look like they've been burnt to a crisp in his final form, to be fair.
Yeah.
But they also look like, I want to say, embryonic in the way that they haven't been completely formed yet, because they're so desiccated, I guess is the word to use. They're like so thin, so shriveled up, like they're almost dead parts of his anatomy. And it is a really interesting thing. And he always holds them palm up, which again is also very interesting. Yeah, I like that. And then we had the good old purple radioactive fire plasma, whatever you wanted to call it nowadays.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting because that was just a sharp deviation from the typical white, blue, red that we typically saw.
I think Ano said that that was like his tribute to Prince, the artist, the music artist, Prince, because he passed away like shortly before that, so he made him purple for him or something.
I didn't know that. That's pretty funny.
That's actually. I heard tell that the color purple is symbolic of death in Eastern culture, which, you know, I mean, like if you're seeing it, you know, there it is. I personally, I've been inside a nuclear reactor. I haven't been inside the nuclear reactor, but I've been inside a nuclear plant, and we got to see like the cooling rods while they were cooling water, the spent rods, so to speak. And the fella who was taking us on the tour was allowed to, you know, shut off the lights so that you could see the glow that was coming up from the water. And it is actually that same color purple,
really?
Decaying fuel rods. So blue is a bad color. So that's Cherenkov light, and you don't want to see blue. If you see blue, that means that the radiation is actually hitting your eye. Nice. Purple is much safer. So if it was blue, I would have been quite angry with them for showing me that. But purple was okay. Just again, children, if you see an eerie blue glow, stay away from the light. Don't run towards the light. The light is dangerous. Stay away from the light.
Watch the Chernobyl TV show. That'll teach you, I guess.
And nobody got the poltergeist reference either. Gosh. Poor Carol Ann, she would be so devastated right now. But yeah, so anyways, that's the long short of that. The other great thing about being in an old nuclear facility is it's like taking a time warp. So it was built in the 80s, and everything there, like nothing comes or goes. it all gets disposed of at the same time when the reactor, is decommissioned. And so when you go in there, everything's like on VHS. It's all the old TVs. It's all the old computers. It was really awesome to see. It was just like I said, stepping into a time warp. But yeah, the dead fuel rods, they do glow that purple color, and it is kind of like a ghostly color. It's pretty neat to see.
Yeah, it's pretty otherworldly.
Yeah, Shin Godzilla, very cool design. Anyways, we are going to move on to our first break in this podcast. Stay with us when we come back. Christian is going to regale us with some more awesome art expertise. Hello, welcome back to Kaiju Curry House. This is episode number 98, rocking your socks off right now. I am here with Connor Baxter, regular co-host, and incredible comic book artist, Christian Gonzalez. So before we delve into Christian's formative years and how he got started in art and how he worked his way up, we have Kaiju Conversations, which we skipped over for those of you who think that they caught it. But we wanted to save it because today, July 1st, Stranger Things, the final release on Netflix, has come out. And we actually had some people write in. More than one person actually asked a Stranger Things conversation. But I feel like this one question will encompass, like the vibe that we generally carry out. For a person asked, essentially, so the Mind Flayer is probably perhaps the most kaiju-esque of all of the Stranger Things characters and creatures. Seeing as how it can come into our world and amalgamate other creatures into its biomass, what kaiju from the Godzilla universe would you say it is most akin to? And which kaiju from the Godzilla verse would you say would be the best to take it down? Thoughts, gentlemen?
So definitely Hedorah, because it accumulates biomass.
Hedorah is poisonous as all get out. I mean, I don't know necessarily if it would just take Hedorah and be like bonus, because the Upside Down is a pretty nasty realm in and of itself. For those of you who do not watch Stranger Things, we apologize, but you need to watch this show because it's amazing.
You should.
Connor, your thoughts?
I would have said Hedorah as well, honestly. The way that I've seen it is that Hedorah is almost an unstoppable monster, and it's the only monster in the Showa series that actually almost managed to kill Godzilla. You think about it.
True.
Yep. And really, it was mostly the humans that technically defeated Hedorah. By basically electrocuting him pretty much, right? And so when you've got something like that, it's practically an unstoppable creature, really, unless you electrocute it. Joe, what would you say is your kaiju of choice?
So I did have a brief conversation with someone else. I had the longest time to think about this, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm a cheater and I get the questions, so I have time to think about them. I thought about Hedorah, but because it starts out like a tadpole and whatnot, just like a demo dog or a Demogorgon dog in the show, I was kind of like, is that really the route I want to take? And then I thought for a little bit. I was like, you know what? Destroya. I feel like Destroya would be like a pretty tough one because Destroya's weakness is cold, whereas the Stranger Things creatures, they tend to not like fire. So there's that. There is the hive mind the creatures from Stranger Things has that arguably Destroya has as well. So these are both shape-shifting creatures that, can, in theory, eat other biomass and incorporate it into their being. And then because Destroya is potentially a hive mind, it can split off and whatnot, it in theory can't be, really bartered with or mind controlled or attacked that way. And since it was such a powerful creature, I figured, we'll throw Destroya a bone and mention it on the podcast, because how often do we recognize that good old crab monster for what it was, I thought that was a pretty good one, but I thought it was a pretty decent question all in all, what one would give it the biggest run for its money, and then what one is it most similar to? And in my mind, Destroya. I think again, this is for the folks who, like have watched Stranger Things. But I feel like Space Godzilla would make a pretty decent Vecna, honestly. Got the good old psychic stuff going on.
Yeah.
As I say, Biolante was a bit benevolent to really like throw in there, but Space Godzilla is like the rowdy, ugly, like psychic monster from like the cool dark place.
It works.
Yeah, cool times. So anyways, that's it for Kaiju Conversations on this podcast episode, but we're going to move on. So Christian, tell us about what it like. First of all, what stuff do you use to do your art? You mentioned earlier, that you had a few key tools. Like, take us down the rundown of like how you practice each morning, like how you warm up, like what's that process like for you?
All right, so basically I sit down, I whip out this. It's a finger glove only for 2 fingers. It's like this.
So not like full Michael Jackson.
Slides on the screen.
All right, so that's why that does that.
Yeah.
And why would you need that to slide on the screen? Is to prevent, like on a digital art platform, is that to prevent like the brush from knowing that your palm is there? Or
the iPad's pretty good about detecting when it's your hand versus when it's the Apple Pencil. So it doesn't really work. You can also turn off like finger input for that, for the app specifically. But it's also mostly so like my hand doesn't stick to the screen. I'm trying to like do strokes and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I also use a Gen 2 Apple Pencil. It's like so amazing, right? Like a little white
all
stick.
The Apple listeners right now are just like, yes.
Yeah, and then of course I use the iPad with the stand to elevate it in my face a little bit. Nothing too crazy. I don't have like the $1,000 Cintiq or anything. You don't really need anything crazy to draw.
No, I think that's one of the wonderful things about drawing and that type of artwork anyways, is because it's just so inclusive of so many different people. So what programs do you use on your iPad? I feel like a lot of folks in general have like an Apple product or like access more or less to an iPad, hopefully.
Yeah, I use specifically Procreate, just exclusively Procreate. It's $10, one-time purchase, and that's all you need, really.
Yeah, so you go to the App Store, pay your $10 and off you go.
Yep, and you can also download brush sets that other artists create online, like Gumroad is a source for that. You can just Google like, like insert like this sort of brush, and you can download like a whole pack.
So what Christian's talking about, folks, when there are like brush sets or brushes that other people have created, think about like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? So T-Rex had scales, and you don't want to sit there for like 1,000 hours drawing scales on this amazing work of art that you're creating. In the past, you might have, but nowadays we can cheat. So what you can do is you can find like a scale pattern that someone else has created a whole lot, you like a whole lot, use that as like your paint, and then apply it so that like basically you are painting on scales. What would have been like an all-day job before suddenly becomes like what, Christian, 30 seconds?
Yeah, it's quick. I mean, the best thing about digital art is you get to cut corners and cheat around every now and then. But I mean, it's not cheating. It's just
I know it's not cheating, but for those of us who grew up in the dark ages and had to do this all with a pencil, it's totally like.
Yeah, I did my time, man. I got my start traditionally using pen and ink, so I think I earned the right to cut some corners here and there.
Yeah, I most recently purchased an airbrush, and let me tell you, folks, if you paint, get an airbrush. You're just being a pariah if you use brushes the whole time. Get an airbrush. It's so good. It's so easy. It dries so quickly. Please.
But it doesn't hurt to know as many skills as possible.
True.
There you go. So those are the typical tools of the trade. So when you warm up, like how long you practice drawing before you get into like your actual project work, would you say?
Oh, well, I mean, I say I practice every day. I mean, I just start drawing whatever I left off on. I don't have any like, all right, I'm going to sketch out this random thing and then start doing work. I just sit down and I start drawing where I left off. I don't know how some artists actually have the time to like, oh, I did a warm-up sketch and it looks like a full-on like illustration. I'm like, how did you like, what do you like, what are you, like a robot? Like,
I could never do that. My sketches are just a mess a lot of the time. But
no, I just sit back down and I'm like, start off where I left.
I am one of these abominations that has to practice before I do like a full-on thing. And I use it just for scaling what I'm going to put into my drawing, you know?
Wow.
So like, I have to like scale it appropriately. So like I remember one time when I was younger, I drew this like amazing NBA player like doing a slam dunk, and I was really proud of myself because I can't draw people worth a darn.
Nice stuff.
I made him too tall. His head was out of like the pace of like A4 paper that I was drawing on. It was just like, no. Then my teacher
Well,
like scanned it on a copier for a larger sheet of paper, and I was able to finish it, but it didn't look quite right.
Yeah.
as someone who's done life drawing classes, right? So imagine you're drawing someone, right? They're naked and they come round to look at your drawing, right? And you hope to God that they like it. At least, like their heads are usually bigger or like their hands look weird. It's just like I don't know. Anyways, I've actually got a question as well. So we've mentioned the advantages of drawing digitally. You can undo, it's you can cheat a lot of things, or well, I wouldn't say cheat, but there's a lot more shortcuts, I suppose,
Yeah.
to how you do stuff traditionally. What are the drawbacks of drawing digitally?
Well, it's if you're not using like if you're using like standard brushes, like the ones that look just like a straight black line, like it's hard to like get that like that feel, of like someone did this versus like a computer did it. It's hard to get like that human touch. But I mean that's something you learn how to work around,
Oh yeah.
how to make it look less like mechanical and like procedural, is using different brushes, like leaving mistakes in, like you don't have to be perfect, like just sketch loosely and then
So
work
you
from there.
you deliberately leave a few mistakes in just to like,
Sometimes I do, yeah, it depends.
that's very King's speech of you.
Yeah.
It's awesome. For those of our listeners who have not seen the King's speech, because it's not a kaiju film, um, the King of England going into World War II, I guess we should say, he had a speaking impediment, and he had to take speaking lessons. And when he does his speech at the end of the film, his great speech, he's been really working up to it because he can hardly talk at the beginning. When he finally does his speech at the end, his speaking therapist says, "Oh, you stuttered a little bit on that one." He's like, "Well, had to let them know it was me, didn't I?"
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great moment.
A little
But
human.
yeah, I am human. But that's great. So for those of our listeners who want to be artists, who want to get into the comic book industry, so explain the grind on that. We've already gone over like how you get a gig, like once you've
Yeah.
got the talent. So like talk about working up to that talent. Was there a day job involved like while you were working up to it, or?
Well, in all the years leading up to like now, I've been working. I mean, I was in high school and then in college, didn't really have jobs. So I had a lot of time after school to just obviously do my schoolwork and then to draw. I was fortunate enough to not have a job, not to need a job, during that time. But it's just a matter of like, if you want to be an artist, you have to just draw every single day. Like every single drawing you do, even if it's a professional gig, it's still practice for the next drawing. That's how I like to see it. Like everything you're doing is practice for your next drawing. And like I started off, posting my art on DeviantArt when I was in high school, and I look back on it now and it's just horrible. Like, but I keep it there as a reminder of like where you start, and like on my Instagram, it goes back to like 2015, and I just have everything old on there, even if it looks horrible compared to like what I do now. It helps to like look back, watch yourself like as you grow, like learn from your mistakes, and just keep going. Like don't look back. Like you made a mistake on this drawing, like just fix it the next one.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So were there any points where you got nervous about the path that you were choosing as an artist? Because I feel like that's something that comes along, like when everybody's like choosing a career, and it might end up being like really hard. So did you ever have that point, and how'd you get through it?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I'm not like I don't just only do art. Obviously, I have like some stuff on the side. Like I help my parents run their family business, and it's art is like to me, it's like supplementary, where it's like my side hustle, if you will. But I do it every single day, so it feels like it's my main thing that I do. But it just if people tell you it's like, oh, you can't do it, it's not realistic, like just do it anyways, and like just still do it, like just try, do it, give it your all.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is just actually doing it.
Yeah.
There's so many people who never even get to that step. If you actually do it, you're better than like 98% of people.
Yeah.
Because
Just
then
try
there's
it.
like the 1% that try it and then give up. And then there's like the 1% that try it, fail, and then they keep going. And those are the ones that make it.
It's like exercising, you know, you go to the gym and you're like, after a week you don't see results, you give up. So it's like that where you're not gonna see results overnight. You're gonna have to keep at it.
As they say, patience is a virtue.
Exactly.
There
It's
we
tough,
go.
but you gotta stick it out.
We're going to leave on that awesome high note, and we're going to go to our recommendations for if nothing else for this episode. So, Christian, I'm going to pick on you. This is your time to shine and plug your art. So, if nothing else, for people who've listened to this episode and want more of your content, where do they go?
So I'd say my biggest social media, footprint, if you will, would be Instagram. That's where you can just go and see all of my art from like now till my very first post. If you want to go all the way down, I've seen people do that actually, so it's surprising. And that's just C Guns, like SEAGUNS. Just that's it. And then I'm also on there. I have a link to like all my other social media. I'm also on Twitter, CGuns_art. I post art there as well as just talk a lot of nonsense about like various media and like games and kaiju stuff. And my biggest thing that I'm trying to get off the ground now is my Patreon. I've got like 10 people on there. I do a monthly sticker club where I send out a brand new sheet every month, 5x7, like that. It's pretty good size every month. I have them vote on it. I post all my behind the scenes content, like from the ugly like initial sketch to like the final. So it's like a whole thing. Patreon. You can see it on my social media links and stuff like that on my bios. That's
That's
pretty much
awesome.
it. As far as me, that's all I have. Recommendations for stuff like, watch Stranger Things. That's good. Read
Yep.
Berserk. Read Berserk for sure. That's like my number one. And watch more Godzilla movies if you don't.
Yep. Well, it'll be a better place if everyone just watched Godzilla movies.
It is.
Yeah.
I forgot who said it, but it's like if I believe it was like Ralph Coronelli. He said this. He says if Godzilla is like if The Godfather and Fast and Furious were in the same franchise. So, watch it.
Universal keeps joking that they're going to introduce Jurassic Park into the Fast and Furious franchise.
That would be Godzilla, bro. That's all you need.
Just give me a T-Rex and a Subaru and then we're sorted. Yeah.
Rexy doesn't need a Subaru. Connor, if nothing else.
If you want to get started 3D sculpting for free, try Blender. Other than that, it's been very warm the last couple of days. It's been 23 degrees here at least. Go outside.
Where's here, Connor? Where's here?
Touch grass.
Anywhere that's sunny, go outside. Enjoy the summer. Oh dear. But yeah, other than that, Joe, if nothing else.
So if nothing else, check out Christian's Instagram and his other works of art that you may not have seen because they are awesome. And I personally like quite a few of them. I am also going to plug another Patreon, the one that I joined, which I think is great for those of you who are getting started into 3D printing and like dinosaurs and kaiju and whatnot. I had a good look around when I was looking for one because getting the files to 3D print can cost a lot of money if you're looking for good ones. So joining a Patreon or tribe or whatever they are, like a monthly subscription, is the way to go. I pay $10 a month for mine. It is on My Mini Factory. That is a website. And the tribe is Dino, as in dinosaur, and dog. And you should see an icon of a little white dog riding a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And the fella does, I think he does like 10 dinosaur sculpts a month. They all look great. And you can print them out. And for $10 a month, that's great because ordinarily they would be like $9 for each individual file. So you save about $90 a month and you just get them. So it's cool. But yeah, that's a great way of like getting into art as well. Also, like do a plug again, get an airbrush. Oh my gosh, they're so good. They're so good. Practice on an airbrush. It's like drawing digitally. Like once you get in the nick of it, like, oh, brilliant.
Just remember to wear a mask and not breathe in those fumes.
The paint dries
That's
so
important.
quickly. So quickly. Like I can paint, and then 10 minutes later, I'm ready to paint again. Oh. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for listening. We've really enjoyed having you along with us on this episode of Kaiju Curry House. And as always, keep it kaiju.